Breaking news, Viking Nation. The first revelation is about to detonate inside US Bank Stadium, and you're not ready for what just hit Minneapolis. The foundation of our offensive line is cracking under pressure, leaving our protection schemes in absolute jeopardy for Sunday Night Football against Atlanta. But that's just the beginning. Our secondary is dealing with a devastating blow that could leave us vulnerable to explosive plays when the lights are brightest. Meanwhile, our rookie quarterback just experienced the most beautiful distraction imaginable. But it comes at the worst possible time for team preparation. And if that wasn't enough, our veteran safety is battling through adversity that tests the very core of our championship aspirations. But here's where it gets interesting. When crisis strikes, champions respond, and the front office just made a move that proves we're not backing down from anyone, anywhere, anytime. Each of these earth-shattering developments could completely redefine how we approach this pivotal Week 2 matchup under the Sunday night spotlight. Viking Nation, brace yourselves, because this storm starts right now with a revelation that cuts deeper than a Minnesota winter. And what happens next will determine whether we rise like warriors or fall like forgotten legends. But hold on, as shocking as that sounds, the reality behind our offensive line situation is about to make every Viking fan's blood run cold. Because we're talking about the one position that can't afford weakness, can't tolerate uncertainty, can't survive even the slightest vulnerability when Atlanta's pass rush comes hunting for our quarterback's soul. The name that's been whispered in hushed tones around Winter Park. The player whose absence from practice has coaching staff members pacing the halls like caged wolves. The anchor of our protection schemes who makes everything else possible in Kevin O'Connell's offensive system. Ryan Kelly has missed his second consecutive practice with a toe injury that sounds minor but could be catastrophic for our championship hopes this Sunday night. You want to know what real fear looks like in the NFL? It's watching your starting center, the player who calls out protection schemes and adjustments at the line of scrimmage, the man responsible for making sure Sam Darnold doesn't get his head taken off by blitzing linebackers, sitting on the sideline while Atlanta's defensive coordinator is drawing up exotic pressure packages designed to exploit exactly this kind of weakness. Kelly isn't just another offensive lineman, he's the quarterback of our offensive line. The player who identifies Mike linebackers and sliding protection schemes, who makes the split-second decisions that separate clean pockets from quarterback massacres under the bright lights of Sunday Night Football. Do you remember what happened last season when our center position became unstable? When communication broke down between quarterback and protection? When Sam Darnold started seeing ghosts because he couldn't trust the pocket? That's exactly what we're trying to avoid as we prepare for an Atlanta defense that's hungry to make a statement on national television. That's looking for any sign of weakness they can exploit to turn this game into a nightmare for Viking Nation. But here's what's eating at every true Viking fan's soul right now. Michael Juergens is our backup center, and while he's shown flashes of competence, asking him to handle Atlanta's exotic pressure packages on Sunday Night Football is like throwing a rookie sailor into a Category 5 hurricane and expecting him to navigate perfectly. The difference between having Kelly anchoring our line and rolling the dice with an inexperienced backup could be the difference between controlled drives that keep Atlanta's offense off the field and 3-and-out disasters that put our defense in impossible situations all night long. And here's the question that should terrify every Viking fan. If Kelly can't go, if his toe injury is more serious than the coaching staff is letting on, do we have the depth and preparation to protect Sam Darnold against a defense that's going to bring everything they have to prove they belong on the same field as our championship aspirations? If you believe this offensive line has the heart to protect our quarterback regardless of who's snapping the ball, if you trust that Viking Warriors find ways to overcome adversity when everything is on the line, then smash that like button right now and show the football world that we don't make excuses. We make statements when the pressure is at its peak. And just when fans thought the injury report couldn't get more concerning, here comes the next bombshell that's going to make every Viking defender in our secondary question if the football gods have cursed our championship dreams at the worst possible moment. We're talking about a player whose coverage skills and ball hawking ability made him a crucial part of Brian Flores' defensive game plan, whose presence in the secondary gave us the kind of versatility and depth that championship teams absolutely must have when facing explosive passing attacks like Atlanta brings to the table. Jeff Okudah remains trapped in the concussion protocol, and Viking Nation, this isn't just about losing a cornerback. This is about losing a player who was supposed to be a key piece in shutting down Atlanta's receiving core when the entire football world is watching on Sunday night. Picture this nightmare scenario. Okudah gets carted off the field in that Week 1 victory over Chicago, his head hitting the turf with the kind of sickening impact that makes every Viking fan's stomach drop. And now he's stuck in a protocol that has no guaranteed timeline, no promise of when he'll be cleared, no certainty that he'll even be available when we need him most. This is the kind of secondary crisis that keeps defensive coordinators awake at night. The kind of depth chart disruption that forces Brian Flores to completely reimagine his coverage schemes and hope that untested players can step up against one of the most explosive passing attacks in the entire NFL. Okudah wasn't just another cornerback in our rotation. He was the player who brought experience, technique, and the kind of coverage skills that allow aggressive defensive coordinators to take risks, to send exotic blitzes, to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks because they trust their secondary to hold up in single coverage. But now we're facing the harsh reality of potentially going into Sunday Night Football without one of our most reliable cover corners against an Atlanta offense that's going to attack every perceived weakness in our secondary with surgical precision and ruthless efficiency. Think about what this means for our defensive game plan when Atlanta starts spreading us out in 3 and 4 receiver sets, when they're trying to create mismatches and exploit any hesitation or uncertainty in our coverage schemes, when Kirk Cousins is looking for quick slants and intermediate routes that can turn into explosive gains if our cornerbacks aren't in perfect position. How many times have we seen championship dreams shattered because teams couldn't cover explosive receivers, because secondary injuries forced coaching staffs to play conservative and hope for the best instead of being aggressive and dictating the terms of engagement? Do you think Brian Flores is going to abandon his aggressive defensive philosophy just because we're missing a cornerback? Or do you think he's going to find ways to disguise our coverage and put maximum pressure on Atlanta's offense, regardless of who's available in our secondary? And here's what should have every Packers, Bears, and Lions fan terrified. When Viking Nation faces adversity, when our backs are against the wall, when everyone expects us to fold under pressure, that's exactly when this team shows its true championship character and proves that purple and gold runs deeper than temporary setbacks. If you believe that next man up mentality is more than just a cliche, if you trust that our secondary has the depth to handle any challenge Atlanta brings, then hit that subscribe button and let the entire NFC North know that we're not defined by who's missing. We're defined by who steps up when everything is on the line. But that's not the only story shaking the foundation of our franchise. The next revelation shows exactly how life's most beautiful moments can create the most complicated timing imaginable. How personal joy and professional responsibility collide in ways that test the very fabric of what it means to be part of the Viking Brotherhood. We're talking about a player whose future is directly tied to our championship window, whose development and preparation could determine whether this franchise has found its quarterback of the future or is still searching for answers at the most important position in all of professional sports. JJJ? McCarthy missed Thursday's practice for the birth of his first child, and Viking Nation, this isn't just about missing one practice session. This is about the delicate balance between family milestones and the relentless preparation that championship seasons demand from every player on the roster. Picture this scene. Our rookie quarterback, the player we drafted to be the heir apparent to our championship hopes, experiencing the life-changing moment of becoming a father while his teammates are grinding through practice sessions designed to prepare for Sunday Night Football against Atlanta. This is exactly the kind of beautiful chaos that makes professional athletics so compelling, where personal joy and team obligations create moments that test maturity, priorities, and the kind of character that separates future stars from players who flame out under pressure. McCarthy isn't just missing practice to skip responsibility, he's experiencing fatherhood for the first time. Holding his newborn child and understanding that his life has changed forever in ways that make football seem both more and less important simultaneously. But here's what's really fascinating about this situation. Championship organizations understand that life happens, that players are human beings with families and responsibilities that extend far beyond the football field, and that supporting players through these moments actually strengthens team chemistry rather than weakening it. Think about what this means for McCarthy's development as he watches film sessions and prepares for his eventual opportunity to lead this franchise. How becoming a father might give him the kind of perspective and maturity that accelerates his growth as both a player and a leader. Do you think Kevin O'Connell is concerned about McCarthy missing one practice? Or do you think he understands that supporting his rookie quarterback through this life milestone is exactly the kind of leadership that builds championship culture? This is about more than just football preparation. This is about building the kind of family atmosphere within our organization that makes players want to fight for each other, want to sacrifice for the common goal, want to give everything they have, because they know their teammates and coaches genuinely care about them as people. And here's what should excite every Viking fan about this story. We're not just developing a quarterback. We're watching a young man grow into the kind of leader who understands that football is part of a larger life, that championship success requires balancing personal responsibilities with professional excellence, that true leadership comes from understanding what matters most in every situation. McCarthy's absence for his child's birth isn't a distraction from our championship goals. It's proof that we're building the kind of culture where players become better men, where personal growth and professional success reinforce each other, where championship character is developed both on and off the field. If you believe that family comes first and that supporting our players through life's biggest moments makes us stronger as an organization, if you trust that this kind of culture creates the foundation for sustained championship success, then like this video right now and show the football world that Viking Nation understands what really builds champions in the long run. Stay with me, because what comes next will flip the script on everything you thought you knew about veteran leadership, about fighting through adversity, about the kind of warrior mentality that separates true Vikings from players who crumble when facing the biggest challenges of their careers. We're talking about a player whose career has been defined by excellence, whose presence in our secondary provides the kind of stability and leadership that championship teams absolutely must have, whose current situation tests everything we believe about perseverance and professional dedication. Harrison Smith continues working to return from the illness that kept him out of training camp, limited in practice as he battles back to the elite level that has made him one of the most respected safeties in NFL history. And Viking Nation, this story reveals exactly what separates legendary players from those who fade away when adversity strikes. Picture this battle. Our franchise safety, the player who has been the backbone of our secondary for over a decade, fighting through health issues that would sideline lesser players, showing up to practice despite not feeling 100%, pushing his body and his conditioning because he understands that Sunday Night Football against Atlanta might require every ounce of his experience and leadership. Smith isn't just trying to get back on the field. He's proven that true Viking warriors never surrender, never use excuses, never accept anything less than their absolute best when their team needs them most. This is about more than just recovering from illness. This is about a veteran leader showing younger players what it means to fight through adversity, what it looks like when championship DNA refuses to be compromised by temporary setbacks, what separates players who become legends from those who are forgotten when their careers end. Think about everything Harrison Smith has meant to this franchise over the years. How many game-changing interceptions he's made, how many crucial tackles he's delivered, how many times his veteran presence has steadied our defense when chaos threatened to overwhelm less experienced players. Do you remember that pick six against Green Bay that sent US Bank Stadium into absolute pandemonium when Smith showed exactly why elite safeties can change the trajectory of entire seasons with one perfectly timed play? That's the kind of impact we're talking about potentially having available for Sunday Night Football. That's the level of game-changing ability that could be the difference between victory and defeat when everything is on the line against Atlanta. But here's what's really eating at every Viking fan's soul. Smith's conditioning and preparation have been compromised by this illness, and asking a veteran player to perform at elite levels without full preparation is like asking a master craftsman to create perfection with broken tools. The difference between having a fully prepared Harrison Smith roaming our secondary and having him play at less than 100% could be the difference between shutting down Atlanta's passing attack and giving up the kind of explosive plays that turn championship dreams into nightmares. And here's the question that should have every Viking fan on the edge of their seats. If Smith isn't ready, if his conditioning isn't where it needs to be for the intensity of Sunday night football, do we have the secondary depth to handle Atlanta's receiving core without compromising our defensive game plan? Smith's leadership goes beyond just his physical abilities. He's the player who communicates coverage adjustments, who helps younger players understand complex defensive concepts, who provides the kind of veteran presence that keeps everyone calm when the pressure reaches its peak. If you believe that warrior spirit transcends temporary physical limitations, if you trust that Harrison Smith's football IQ and leadership can overcome any conditioning issues, if you know that true Vikings find ways to contribute even when they're not at 100%, then hit that subscribe button and show the entire NFL that our secondary is led by a legend who refuses to let anything compromise our championship aspirations. And listen closely, the final chapter reveals exactly how championship organizations respond when crisis strikes, how elite front offices turn emergency situations into competitive advantages, how Viking Nation's leadership proves that we're not just surviving this injury epidemic, we're using it as an opportunity to showcase the depth and strategic thinking that separates contenders from pretenders in this unforgiving league. While other franchises panic when key players go down, while weaker organizations scramble to find band-aid solutions that compromise their long-term vision, the Minnesota Vikings made a move that tells you everything you need to know about how seriously this franchise takes our championship window and how committed we are to maintaining defensive excellence despite the chaos swirling around our injury report. Sione Takitaki has been signed to our practice squad. And Viking Nation, this isn't just filling a roster spot out of desperation. This is about identifying proven talent that can contribute immediately, about adding a linebacker with legitimate NFL experience who brings the kind of reliability and versatility that championship teams demand from every position on their depth chart. Takitaki isn't some unknown commodity we're throwing into the fire, hoping he can survive. This is a 30-year-old linebacker who was drafted by Cleveland in the 3rd round, who has accumulated 289 career tackles, 4 sacks, and 2 interceptions, including 1 returned for a touchdown, who spent 5 seasons with the Browns before signing with New England and proving he can contribute at the highest level of professional football. Think about what this signing means for our linebacker core as we prepare for Atlanta's offensive attack, how it gives Brian Flores additional flexibility in his defensive packages, how it ensures that we're not compromising our aggressive defensive philosophy just because injuries have forced us to dig deeper into our depth chart than we originally planned. You want to know what separates elite organizations from mediocre franchises? It's having the foresight to identify talent before you desperately need it. It's maintaining standards regardless of circumstances. It's refusing to use injuries as excuses when championship opportunities are hanging in the balance. Takitaki has been studying film, learning defensive terminology, preparing for exactly this moment when he'd be called upon to help us maintain the kind of defensive intensity that has Atlanta's offensive coordinator losing sleep as he tries to game plan against Brian Flores' exotic pressure packages. This move proves that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah isn't just managing this injury crisis. He's using it to discover players who might become crucial contributors in our playoff push, who might be the X factors that nobody sees coming when January arrives and everything is on the line. Do you think our front office would bring in a player they didn't trust completely? Someone who couldn't execute at the level our championship aspirations demand? Do you think Brian Flores would welcome a linebacker who couldn't handle the complexity and aggression of his defensive system? And here's what should terrify every team on our schedule for the rest of the season. We're not just surviving these injuries. We're using them to build the kind of depth that championship teams need when the playoffs arrive and every game becomes the elimination battle. Takitaki's PFF grades show consistent performance in the mid to high 60s throughout his career, proving he's not just a warm body, but a legitimate linebacker who can contribute in run defense, pass coverage, and as a pass rusher when the situation demands it. The fact that New England released him in February had more to do with scheme fit and coaching changes than with his ability to play football at an elite level. And now he's in our building, learning our system, preparing to help us maintain the defensive excellence that has championship written all over it. Viking Nation, if you believe that adversity reveals character, if you trust that this organization builds champions from every level of the roster, if you know that purple and gold DNA runs deeper than temporary obstacles, then smash that like button right now and show the entire football world that we're not making excuses. We're making moves that prove championship teams are built through intelligent preparation, strategic thinking, and the kind of front office excellence that turns crisis into opportunity. And if this week felt like a test of our organizational depth and character, what's coming next could be the moment that proves Viking Nation doesn't just survive chaos, we master it. We use it as fuel for the championship fire that burns in every true fan's heart. And when the dust settles and this season reaches its climax, everyone will remember not the injuries that challenged us, but how we responded with the kind of strategic brilliance and warrior determination that transforms good teams into legendary champions, because the real avalanche of Viking excellence is just beginning to roll down the mountain, and Atlanta has no idea what's about to hit them on Sunday night.